Over the years, YouTube has been home to some of my favorite pieces of horror media ever, going all the way back to silly stuff like GTA San Andreas mysteries and grainy fake footage of creatures caught on video. As we all know, in time, things became a bit more sophisticated, so to speak. Whole genres like Unfiction, analog horror, ARGs, lost media, or just short horror films either saw their birth on this site or found a cozy home in it, giving us projects of much higher quality than anybody probably expected. Part of my goal with this channel has been to share some lesser-known projects with all of you, hoping to bring them to a wider audience. I've usually talked about a single project at a time, but it often happens that a series I really like is either just starting, has very few episodes, or is simply too short to make a full video on. This time, in an attempt to cover some of them without the video being too short, and also without completely spoiling the longer ones through a big recap, I've decided to take more than one into consideration. And so, from crazy cosmic terrors in the middle of the ocean to videotapes with paranormal effects to the exploration of an empty alternate reality, here are 4 YouTube horrors you need to watch right now. I want to start out with The Second Horizon by Renaissance VFX, because it's only got 2 relatively short episodes so far, but also because it's already one of the most impressive analog horror projects I've ever seen on a technical level. The basic concept of the story itself is nothing new, but ever intriguing. It's 1973 and a fishing crew is going about their business at sea. One day, they come across these 2 gigantic obelisk-like structures jutting out from the water. The crew sends a distress signal to the Coast Guard after one of them touches the wall of the structure and something, evidently painful, starts happening to his hand. At first it looks like a burn, but it's obviously much worse than that. The Coast Guard arrives with helicopters, ships, and hazmat suits. They take away the hurt crew member, who is just screaming his soul out at this point, and put the rest of the fishing vessel on quarantine. While the suits are running experiments on the obelisks trying to determine their origins and composition, the crew members are trying to figure out what's going on and when, or if, they'll get to leave. Everything we see is basically a compilation of footage taken from one of the fishing crew members and footage taken from the so-called Coast Guard, all compiled and classified by the US Department of Defense. If that sounds and looks interesting, go and check it out right now, because I'll get into some spoilers here. The link will be down there. So, as you can imagine, the situation being what it is, tensions start to rise both among the fishing crew members and between them and the Coast Guard, which is pretty obviously straight up just the US Department of Defense itself. We follow the story mainly through the captain of the crew, another member who's filming everything with his camera, and the suits running their experiments. From what we're shown, we find out a few things about these mysterious obelisks. They're huge, standing at about 2,200 feet tall, and they're 6,500 feet apart. They also appear to be slowly getting taller by 2 feet every hour, so this could be just a part of something much bigger that is emerging out of the ocean. Sometimes these structures also suddenly light up, which is why the one crew member went up to touch them. He wanted to see the lights, as the captain says.
He touched it. He touched it with his hand.
Why'd he touch it?
Lights. He wanted a closer look at the lights.
Now, what is actually happening to his arm? We find out in the second episode that the material of which these towers are made seems to consume any organic matter and even water. It disintegrates cellular organisms on contact. We see them demonstrate this by just casually throwing a rat on the floor inside the obelisk and... yep, pretty gnarly. Hooray for the scientific method, I guess? Anyway, they don't know what causes this yet. So now we understand that this is exactly what happened to that one crew member who touched the obelisk. His hand basically started to get consumed by its unknown effects. We also learn at the end of the first episode that this led to his death, which was kept secret from the rest of his crew. This is also one of the moments in which we see the tensions build up, as the hazmat suits tell the crew member with the camera to stop filming, before just leaving him be, because I guess it's not worth it. We then have the crew arguing amongst themselves on what to do, or on if they should send a message out by some other means without being traced by the government, or if it's better to stay put and trust them. They figure out easily enough that their other crewmate is dead, because they haven't heard him scream after he's been wheeled off from their boat. And for me, this is the best aspect of the series so far. Beyond the obviously impressive effects work, the mounting tension of this crew getting sucked into something way beyond their understanding is just classic cosmic horror goodness. Their priority at first is, reasonably, the safety of the crew and their catch, which is going to spoil if they stay there any longer. But they slowly start to figure out that things are more complicated here, especially their captain, who was interviewed by the suits and got a sense of what's going on. I also want to mention that I love the guy who plays him. His performance is almost cartoonish in the typical rough sea captain way you'd expect, down to the way he speaks, but it gives him a lot of personality for how little we see of him so far.
I'm not waiting here till winter!
Marlo's dead! You know what the hell we walked into. We are going to stay here and trust that the Coast Guard knows what's best.
So that's the gist for now. As you can already probably tell from the footage I've shown, the project is quite impressive, visually speaking. It is a mix of live action and CGI, with the actors being real people on blue screens, and everything else being rendered in 3D. The use of VHS filters obviously helps with smoothing out everything and giving it a grittier and more realistic look. The guys at Renaissance VFX are no gonks. If you look at everything else they've posted on their channel, which is for some reason primarily CGI Bionicle fan films, super based but also quite peculiar, it's all incredibly well done and surprisingly professional. Even this little horror short about some worm-like parasite coming out of a dude's foot. Like, look at that, it's so good. Anyway, I'll always love the more amateurish side of YouTube horror, obviously, that's the beating heart of it, but it is also refreshing to see someone who clearly has technical chops trying their hand at it once in a while. It should be inspiring for anyone in the community, in my opinion. When it comes to the second horizon, I say that the concept is nothing new in the sense that it fits snugly in the Lovecraftian horror mold. A giant and mysterious otherworldly structure appears in the middle of nowhere and a crew of dudes interacts with it to disastrous effects, as its alien properties challenge both their sanity and their very lives. It's all very The Mountains of Madness and The Thing. Hell, this could even be the sunken city of R'lyeh desunkening itself for all we know. With The Thing, it also shares the crew of dudes itself. While in the film they have to contend with the alien creature and with each other as it keeps taking the forms of different crew members, here they have to contend with the government basically holding them captive and their own curiosity towards the situation. So we could say it goes more in a conspiratorial direction of something like the X-Files or even the SCP Foundation. I find the strain that this dynamic puts on them to be a great way to move along the story and make it feel immediately intriguing. When, after just 2 episodes, the viewer is already interested in seeing how the characters will act, you know you've done something well. The other obviously intriguing thing is the obelisks themselves. We instantly want to know more about them, and I think it's the right call to give us only a few crumbs so far. Letting the mystery build up slowly along the more down-to-earth human story is a good way to balance it. One crazy theory I do have so far is that whatever they are, they might not be growing by 2 feet every hour, as the scientists think. What if everything else is shrinking? Okay, bear with me. We saw that they consume any organic matter and water they come in contact with, right? Well, what are they surrounded and covered by on all sides? Exactly, water. What if it's actually the ocean itself which is sinking, so they appear to be growing taller? Okay, I might be overshooting here. They did also point out that they used filtered seawater for the experiment, which I don't know if it's relevant, honestly, but it might be that unfiltered ocean water is not absorbed in the same way for some reason. The other idea is that maybe any organic matter like animals, bacteria, and debris down in the ocean, which is coming in contact with the obelisks, is being absorbed and this makes them grow taller? I don't know, something Dead Space. Alternatively, it could be just a huge thing that is slowly coming up on its own and all my theories fall. We'll see in the next uploads, hopefully. Also, I have a little nitpick here, but it might be kind of a glaring mistake unless it was intended. If it's 1973, I don't think that the crew would have a consumer-grade camera with them, seeing as VHS came along in 76 and even Betamax in 75. According to Wikipedia, because what the f do I know about cameras? The first camcorder was released by Sony in 83, so... Again, I know I'm being nitpicky here. I've yapped enough, go check these guys out. They're super talented and I'm very excited to see what's coming next. Tapes I found at the thrift store is a very recent project, but it has been growing pretty steadily, because it started out with an obviously high level of quality. It only has 4 episodes so far, but these guys clearly know what they're doing. The channel is operated by Ben. Say hi. The guy's hobby is collecting VHS tapes from the thrift store in his town. Yeah, I know, pretty surprising given the channel name. As he puts it, some of these tapes turn out to be pretty freaky. The first and 4th episodes being an example of this. We start out with the first tape being about an estate sale. A controversial political figure named Arthur Langan has domed himself, so now all of his antique stuff has been put on sale. All of this is explained to us by a news anchor and an estate liquidator, who looks strangely similar to Uber Haxor Nova. No? Just me? And both seem pretty uncomfortable and awkward while speaking on the subject.
Here's Ronald Gopher to tell us more about what you'll find for sale.
We've got all sorts of old film equipment, cameras, projectors, unmarked reels. I'm sure you'll find some real interesting home videos on there. That was a joke, of course, but in all seriousness, we have not screened any of these, and we do not take responsibility for whatever might be on them.
You got all sorts of stuff for sale, but the most interesting things are this suitcase which was found on the scene of Langan's suicide and a single top hat. When talking about the many dolls found in the collection, the liquidator blurts out that Langan kidnapped children, but gets immediately cut off and the news anchor takes over.
We do, however, have a great deal of dolls, and began to wonder at one point whether Langan was turning all those kids he kidnapped into dolls with how many.
Looks like we had an audio issue there with Ronald. But, we've got some great items here in the greenhouse.
For the most part, it all seems like a satire at the start. There's some pretty good comedic bits, especially when we hear from the buyers of the estate sale and their great top hat competition.
I came here to purchase some of Mr. Langan's hats, and a very rude man with a clipboard said that they only had one, mind you, top hat left. So, of course, I put in a bid for it. But he wouldn't budge on the price! Are you kidding me?
Got a new top hat, pretty cheap too. A lot less than I was expecting. Not really much of a hat guy, but pretty excited to try something new.
But the most interesting guy here is this, who says that Langan was the devil and whoever buys his stuff invites evil into their homes, promptly showing us that he bought the suitcase we were shown before. Halfway through the tape we get a cut and we see new footage with, surprise surprise, that same guy in his basement trying to do some sort of summoning ritual with the suitcase. He's got blood circles, candles and the whole shtick. It doesn't seem to work at all and he leaves to check on his dog who started barking. And here we get the scene that makes it clear we're in for a spoopy time. Everything goes dark and we can barely see a shadowy figure with a top hat emerge from the suitcase, which I'm assuming is Langan himself. The dude comes back to try and figure out what went wrong, and at one moment we can see the dark figure behind him, leaving the room. Then we hear a door banging and his dog probably getting murked. Rest in peace, doggy. The shadow appears again in the pantry for a moment, so he runs away. It seems that this thing destroys all light around it, so by the end our character is running around in complete darkness. Judging from the echo in his voice, he's obviously in some other shadow dimension.
I can't see anything. There's nothing. There's nothing here. Please.
After getting jump scared by the Hat Man, the camera falls back into the normal world and a figure picks up the suitcase and leaves. So everything quickly went from quite funny and a bit uncomfortable to straight up classic horror shenanigans, and the execution is just amazing. I'm a sucker for dark pocket dimensions and the like, so this is right up my alley. I also love the setup of an actual background for the monster here, possibly being also a monster while alive who kidnapped children, and a generally controversial political figure, which is arguably even worse. It already sets up some wider lore in the story instead of being just a random dude with a random suitcase, making it feel a bit more lived in, I guess. But this is not all. The next two videos are directly from Ben, addressing the audience. In the first one, he tells us about himself, about his passion for collecting stuff beyond just tapes, and adds that he's from a little town in New Jersey called Alloway Creek. He tells us stuff about the geography of the place, a few local legends like the Blue Hole in the Pine Barrens, which is said to be bottomless, the Jersey Devil, Bigfoot, UFOs, etc. Then he gives us updates on the channel and his plans for it. Now, we'll come back to it in a moment because this part actually gives us some very important information on the overarching mystery here tied to the tapes and to the Blue Hole I mentioned before. Before I spoil that though and get into my theories, I want to quickly go over the following uploads. The one that immediately follows is basically a PSA from Ben saying that his friend Carlisle went missing in mysterious circumstances. Now, Carlisle was the guy who was supposed to fix Ben's VCR player after it broke down in a mysterious incident. Again, we'll come back to it. The latest upload on the channel is another tape and it's titled Private Property. It's first-person footage dating back to 1995. The protagonist is walking around during winter in a piece of suburbs which seems to still be under construction, hence the completely dead atmosphere of it. He enters one of the houses and in the bathroom finds purple goo leaking out of a faucet. Then this happens. He runs away as we hear an air raid siren start to wail. In the woods, when he thinks he's safe, somebody starts shooting arrows at him, hitting him square in the chest at the end. As he takes out the arrow, it seems like his own blood has become the same purple goo we saw in the sink before. So that was awesome, but what the hell is going on? Well, this would be a good moment to go and try to piece things together on your own, because there's already enough info in the videos to form some preliminary theories. Again, the link will be down there. The element that ties all of it together seems to be the purple goo itself. I kept it from you until now, but the first incident with it dates back to right after the first upload. As Ben tried to play another tape, his VCR started leaking that same goo and the tape basically exploded inside of it. I don't know why he calls it black goo, it's clearly purple. I have eyes, Ben. Anyways, he says that this stuff smelled like chocolate, and every time he would look back at it, it seemed to have shifted position, almost as if it was alive. A weird detail he adds is that he felt a sort of paternal attachment to this goo. I don't know what all that is about, yet. He decided to take the tape and the blob out in the woods and bury them. Environmentalist be damned. He also gave his VCR to the already mentioned and now missing Carlisle in order to fix it. In his second video, he says that when he went back to check on it after viewers told him to, all he found is the spot being dug up and the purple blob completely gone, and the tape spools left there in its place. He points out that he found deer and raccoon prints around the hole, thinking that maybe the animals smelled the blob's sweet chocolate scent and dug it up to eat it. The last key element in all of this is the blue hole. So this is a clear blue body of water that can be found on the border of Gloucester and Camden County. As he says, one of the legends surrounding it is that the blue hole is bottomless, and adds that, in fact, people do drown there because of random whirlpools. Whirlpool! When he was a kid, his friends dared him to drink from the blue hole, and when he did, he says that the water had a strange consistency. It was like thick water, which is used, for example, in places like retirement homes, where some people have trouble swallowing normal water. To make things easier for them, you usually put this powder in the water, which gives it a gooey consistency. And there we have it. It's too obvious of a connection to be ignored. We can assume that the purple goo is tied to the blue hole, or coming directly from it. In fact, Ben tells us that the Alloway Creek, after which his town is named, flows out of the blue hole. Now, I don't know how accurate any of the geohydrological facts in this are, shout out to my limnologists out there, and it's important to point out that in his posts he even calls Alloway Allowite, which might be implying that this is an alternate reality kind of situation. Anyway, there's obviously something pretty dang weird about this water, and if the latest upload is any clue to it, then this goop is even ending up in the town's water supply. And as we see from our cameraman when he gets murked by Corey Taylor circa 1999 Slipknot era, it might even be festering inside people's bloodstreams. Ben himself says he's drunk the water directly before, and from his posts we see that his mental state is at times a bit erratic. He starts rambling about the townspeople secretly hating him at one point, looking at him like an animal when seeing him on the street and such, which might be just him suffering from paranoia, or might imply that the town is actually being changed by this water. In fact, let me do a little theorizing. Again, theorizing. Our protagonist is called Ben, right? You know who else is called Ben? Ben 10. Right, brain rot aside, this did in fact randomly call to mind a Ben 10 episode, you know, the one with the old people in the town being replaced by goo aliens? Although in that one they're afraid of water, so it's kind of the opposite. The point is that this might be implying something similar. Maybe the goo is in fact taking over the population of this town. That's why our mysterious cameraman in 1995 was hunted down after exploring the new lot that was being built, and why the goo was coming out of the sink. When he finds the sink, he whispers, "It's getting worse than yesterday." Then in the woods even addresses somebody called Sandy and says,
"Sandy, if you find this, don't come looking for me. Just keep the tape safe."
So this all implies that he knows something about the goo and that somebody has in fact been trying to cover it all up. So I'm not saying it's aliens, but you know. The other interesting aspect is the mention of other local legends and just the inclusion of more paranormal stuff. The shadow guy in the first episode is probably a reference to the Hatman, but we also have a mention of the Jersey Devil, who is said to roam around the Blue Hole. Also, Ben found deer prints near the blob he buried, and the Jersey Devil is depicted as having hooves. So, I'm just saying, that guy might be the mastermind behind all of this. Anyway, my point here is that this might also be more of an anthology kind of deal, where we'll get a whole bunch of cryptids and paranormal events being showcased, which would be super cool. Maybe the goop itself ties all of it together in the sense that the people of Alawite might be hallucinating spooky stuff because of it. I can't say for sure at this point. I love this little project. There's already so much promise and so many cool concepts being played with. The quality of the effects is also great, especially with the Hatman stuff. The acting is also very good and entertaining. I specifically love the news anchor's performance, trying to be professional and upbeat but also being constantly interrupted by the weirdness around the report. And my favorite aspect, which ties into the acting, is probably the humor of it all. Now, the horror is played pretty straight, but everything around it is clearly injected with a dose of irony, which makes it that much more endearing for me. I especially enjoyed the top hat bit and Carlisle being a weirdo. A guy I graduated with back in Alawite says he can fix the VHS player for me, but the price for his services is one full game of Catan with him the next time I'm in town. I asked if he would take cash instead, but he said, "Money means nothing to me anymore." I've yet to find any other options, so it looks like I'll be playing Catan with the guy who passed out during frog dissection in 8th grade. So yeah, super cool project, great work to everyone involved, and I'm very excited to see where it goes next. Hey guys, I hope you're having a good time. We still have a ways to go, but I wanted to say that if you enjoyed this type of video format, please do let me know in the comments. And subscribe for more if you haven't yet, and you know the usual shtick and yada yada yada. I also have a Patreon if you want to help me out directly. January is generally pretty rough for many creators from what I understand, so I really appreciate any help and engagement you can spare. With that said, let's get back to it. Ah, sweet Syncope Drain. Where to even start with this series? Well, first of all, this is one of the currently running projects by the very talented Campfire Connor. Yeah, the same guy who made Route Back Home, which I covered in my last video and which most people in the audience seem to really love. I don't know why this man has been specifically chosen as the algorithm's enemy, but he definitely deserves a much bigger audience. At the time of covering Route Back Home, I did him a great disservice by not digging enough into his other works. He has a bunch of found footage videos on his main channel that are not connected to other projects. And more recently, he started another little series that you can differentiate because the titles of the videos start with a slash, which I can tell is gonna be a whole other can of worms as it keeps going. He's also making a comic book called Hometown, which is actually f***ing great. He's looking for publishers willing to work with him on it, so if you know somebody or you work in the industry, why not shoot a message his way? It's shaping up to be very engaging and it's already obvious that the quality here is high. But one of his biggest projects at the moment is Syncope Drain, an ARG with its own channel which I desperately need your help with, because I might be too much brained to decipher its mysteries, not even joking. Now, in the Route Back Home video I said that one of the things I loved about it is how realistic it was, which was due in no small part to its no-budget production. Syncope Drain goes in a different direction. It's a more traditional piece of filmmaking, so to speak. This time we have actual, third-person cinematography, I don't know if that's what you call it, instead of a first-person found footage type of deal, and it's a nice change of pace. The story seems simple enough at first. We follow Prahil, a man of few words, as he watches very strange and even disturbing DVDs in his apartment. Whenever he views the videos, he also has this weird procedure of injecting this drum-looking thing with some substance and wearing what seems like two USB cables attached to a connector that he puts in his nose, which I found quite funny because it brought to mind those photos of people pretending to be in the hospital by wearing their wired earbuds in their nose. Anyway, this is something that will be explained later down the road. To give you an example of the content of these DVDs, the first one is titled Under the Stairs, and it repeatedly shows the same first-person scene of somebody walking towards a door which slightly opens on its own, revealing a room with a red floor. Sometimes this footage cuts out and we get something else. It's a video of a guy picking up pieces of glass from the floor and eating them. This keeps happening until a figure appears on the stairs in front of him and says, While Prahil watches the tape, someone or something keeps interrupting him by knocking on his apartment door. So, seems pretty spooky and mysterious so far. The problem is that it immediately gets much more complicated. You see, as I mentioned before, Syncope Drain is an ARG, a multi-level ARG actually, and it progresses through the viewer's input. Now, if you just watch the videos you can find on the channel's front page, you'll probably end up very confused. That's because the first step to solving all of this is to find the unlisted videos in a playlist called Canon. These unlisted videos give us a ton of context on what's happening and are essential to play the ARG. I'll give you an example, but remember that with each thing I reveal here, I'm taking a bit away from your experience if you want to play the game yourself. In the unlisted second upload, titled Leprechaun, we see a meeting between Prahil, who has a busted nose for some reason, and Logan. They're here to make a deal of some kind, and we soon find out it's about the DVD of Under the Stairs. We find out that Logan is a buyer, and that there is a whole underground community built around DVDs like this one, in which pretty big money is involved too. Prahil basically acted as a scavenger for Logan, and this has been his first job, by which Logan is impressed, because he actually found the real thing, while he expected some off-brand thing for his first go at it. We can see that Prahil is the silent type, while Logan does all the talking and seems quite comfortable with the situation, implying that he's a seasoned buyer and distributor, as the description calls him. Now, one of the ways in which the ARG works is that there are secret messages, codes, and riddles in the videos, which the viewers need to figure out. When solved, they can actually request a copy of the DVD itself. From what I understand, the team behind Syncope Drain then goes and hides a copy of the DVD somewhere around Seattle, and the viewers will have to find it and upload it online. From Connor's words, these DVD copies are a bit more cryptic than the ones being uploaded to the channel. Here's an example from Leprechaun itself. There's this strange scene in the middle of the video where we see Logan's silhouette and for a moment some green lines flash by. Now, I'm sure there's a way to analyze them with some program or something, but I'm a complete noob when it comes to this kind of stuff. Fortunately, somebody in the comments seemed to get it. Apparently, when decoded, the message is, "What does Glass Baby want?" And this is the actual riddle, to which the answer is more. And it's obviously a reference to the first DVD of the dude eating glass. So then, Syncope Drain places the copy somewhere and the next day gives cryptic instructions to go and find it. Now, fortunately, people have also figured this out and found the location. Here, though, is where the project runs into a little problem. As you can see, the channel is still pretty small, and so is the audience. Unfortunately, while the location has been figured out, the viewers are still trying to find somebody actually living in the area of Seattle who could go and grab it. So, if you're from or around that spot and are interested in playing, you know what to do. I think I need to point out how cool all of this is and the effort that goes into it. And once again, I have endless admiration for Connor for seeing all of this through, even though the audience is so small, just like he did for Route Back Home. It really shows you that he straight up does it for the love of the game and not to become viral, and we need more creators like this. Now, with that said, if you're anything like me, you'll want to kinda throw the ARG aspects to the side. Get out of here. Somebody else will solve this stuff.
Mulder too stupid for riddles. Mulder barely even literate.
In these kinds of things, I'm always more interested in the general lore, the story, the characters, and the style. I'm not much of a puzzle guy, sorry. So that's what I want to keep exploring a bit further here, and fortunately, the ARG aspect of it is not fundamental to enjoy the series. So, essentially, the story of Syncope Drain is about Prahil getting deeper and deeper into this business of, let's call them cursed DVDs, to the point where his own sanity and life are at risk, while Logan will basically act as both a source of exposition for the lore of this world, but also as a sort of very dubious ally for Prahil. And things do get pretty wild. We already get weird things happening beyond the DVD itself in the first 2 episodes, like the door knocking in the first one, and in Leprechaun there's this moment, while Logan speaks, where a can randomly falls on the ground and gets suddenly crushed by an invisible force. Something's up in the real world too. The next upload is a very interesting one. It's a segment from a show talking about the world's fastest animals. Before revealing number 1, we get an ad break. This gets cut off by an image of a mite and a very uncomfortable noisy droning sound. This is the Southern California mite, which is considered to be the fastest animal in the world relative to body size. As you can see during this presentation, some letters and numbers appear and disappear at different times. Somebody in the comments says that if you put them together it gives you a link. I've tried different combinations, but I might be doing something wrong because I can't find it. This section then gets abruptly cut and we see what looks like a woman stumbling like a zombie in an alley. And it's kind of hard to figure out what happens next. Take a look.
Are you?
So it's like there's a sudden explosion and the woman is now a couple of meters away from where she stood before. Then it seems like a second woman starts asking her if she's okay, but before she can finish there's a second explosion and she disappears. And it looks like there's only some bloodstains left where she stood. It seems then that whoever's filming hides behind a door while something tries to open it. At the same time, Prahil starts to frantically grab at his door to keep it closed, as if he's also being attacked. We also hear the droning from before, but now there's also like distorted moaning over it. So, trying to make sense of this, the video is titled Sapiens Macropalpis, which is obviously a reference to Homo sapiens, aka us humans, and Paratersotomos macropalpis. Hope I didn't summon any demons right there, which is the South California mite. This could either suggest a human-mite hybrid, or less literally that the mite attaches itself to a human and has some kind of side effect on it, even though it's sapiens and not Homo macropalpis, so that would suggest that it's the mite itself that is intelligent, not that it's a human, but I might be reaching here. Anyway, as we saw, this mite is the fastest animal on land, relative to its body length. It's capable of moving at 322 body lengths per second. If a human ran that fast, it would reach 1300 miles per hour, which is just short of Mach 1.7, or as fast as a jet plane. This would be more than enough to break the sound barrier, which explains what the explosions we hear in the video are. This stumbling woman must be somehow infected or controlled by the mite, and this gives her the ability to move at Mach 1.7. When she sees the other woman, I think she just rams her at that speed, which is why nothing but bloodstains is left. This is not terrifying at all. Now, the natural question then is, what's happening with Prahil? Is the person in the video somehow aware that he's watching the DVD and has reached his house? Kind of like the Shy Guy SCP? Or is Prahil just being paranoid? We can't even really tell if the sounds are coming from the DVD or from the real world, and maybe it's supposed to be ambiguous? The episode ends with Prahil getting a call from his mom and telling her that it's not a good time to speak. In the following one, we have another meeting between Logan and Prahil. Logan is impressed once again as Prahil found another legit copy. He wants to give Prahil some advice while eating what seems like beef tartare, though from Prahil's reaction it's probably supposed to be raw flesh. Logan tells him about one of his previous finders, a girl who had such a natural talent for it that she would take less than a day to find the DVDs. She quickly became a millionaire, but suddenly died by falling from a building. Logan says that she had been mainlining the DVDs, and this is a very important detail about the lore. You see, from what I understand, mainlining basically means to directly visualize the videos, on a TV for example. We'll find out later why this is dangerous. Just know that standard practice would be to use a projector, just like Prahil does, but even then you still need to use a mouse, which is the drum-like thing we saw Prahil inject in the first episode. From Logan's wording, it seems that these things are alive, and you need to give them fluids to keep them so. They are basically a sort of protection measure for anybody viewing the videos. Anyway, this finder chick pretty much got way too deep in it and kinda overdosed on DVDs, I guess. It is unclear if she was murdered or if she jumped, but Logan's point is that while Prahil seems to have a natural knack for finding these discs, he should not get cocky, and if anything goes wrong, he should come to him for help. We also find out that Logan organizes auctions for the DVDs, and the last one, Under the Stairs, was sold for a very substantial sum, apparently. So we understand that there might be some powerful clients involved here. At the end, Logan does a little Batman disappearing trick, and when leaving, Prahil hears a noise and goes to check it out. Here, he encounters something that we don't see and runs away. From here, the timeline gets a bit more messy, with frequent uses of flashbacks and flash forwards, so I'll just give you the gist of the most interesting info instead of going over every little thing in order. What we come to learn is that the DVDs do indeed have some paranormal effects on the viewers. Logan tells Prahil that you're never supposed to watch them directly because they can see you, without elaborating on what they are. But that's basically why you need to use a projector and a mouse as safeguards. Logan himself shows us how bad the effects can be after another distributor, Fiad, makes an attempt on his life by flashing one of the videos from her phone right up to his face. As we can see, it messes him up pretty bad. So Logan forces a clueless Prahil into helping him to get rid of Fiad, and after their plan fails, he gets into an altercation with her, which ends up in this surreal scene of him bashing the shit out of her and eating her flesh. So yeah, Logan goes mask off and it becomes clear that he's not a normal person but some flesh-eating ghoul, and this was foreshadowed with the beef tartare before, though we don't yet know much about this real nature of his. We also find out that Prahil has some kind of connection to the DVDs and that's why he managed to find them so easily. But he also reveals that something came out from one of the DVDs and broke his nose. That's why he's got a band-aid in the second upload. Then we also see in I'll Hop Away that the DVD transports him into a park, the only moment where we see him happy and smiling. From Logan's reaction, we understand that phenomena of this magnitude are not supposed to happen, and if they did, Prahil should realistically be already dead. So he arrives at the conclusion that Prahil is somehow, at least partially, immune to the DVDs, and he starts seeing dollar signs once again, trying to convince him to keep working together. Now, from Prahil's side, we find out that he flunked out and has a huge debt after laying in the hospital for a month. We don't know what happened, but perhaps it could be tied to his drinking. You see, throughout the episodes we get a strong suggestion that Prahil might be a bit of an alcoholic, as he always has some kind of drink with him, so maybe that led to some sort of accident. Anyway, his debt makes it hard to refuse Logan's offer even though things are getting much too intense for him. And in short, that's the outline of how things are right now. The latest episode is another one of Prahil watching a DVD. This time it's an educational children's show about maths. Once again, we got secret messages flashing by and weird interruptions. The beginning is also probably a flash forward to something that we'll see in the following uploads. It shows Prahil waking up on the ground in a house and a disc materializing right before his eyes. There's a lot of little moments in the series that I haven't mentioned. The one I just caught while writing this is here. When they're in the car, for one scene a figure appears outside and out of focus, disappearing in the next shot. But I'll leave that stuff for you to explore. It should be already pretty clear by this point that it's worth your time. The series uses a lot of implications in its storytelling, things that only come into focus later on, which I always find to be a very engaging way to repay the viewers for their attention. Generally speaking, I think that the project is very original. Just like in Route Back Home, we see a bunch of familiar concepts, but the way in which Connor manages to twist them gives them a very unique flavor, I guess. This guy obviously has vision, and I can't help but be excited to see what more outlandish shit he can come up with. For Syncope Drain, I really appreciate the effort in using a different format. It's cool to see a more TV show type of series for once, and the guy is no chump at it either. There's some really nice cinematography in this, particularly in the last episodes. While once again the budget is what it is, they use what they have quite effectively in my opinion. The biggest technical complaints that I have would be that the audio is not always the best, some of the lines are too quiet and sometimes the background noise is too loud.
Suburbs are coming up in a bit. I'll let you know when to exit. Look, I'm sure a lot is going through your head right now, but to preface everything, first, you made the right call back there.
And the lighting is not great in some scenes. It's not even the lighting itself, but more so just the camera dropping in quality in dark environments. But these aspects don't really impact my enjoyment of the series. I also noticed that there does seem to be an effort in the last episodes to use the lighting in more creative ways. It's especially evident in the scene of Logan going chimp mode. So again, I'm sure that in time Connor and his team are just gonna get better and better at their craft and add elements like that to spice things up. The only other thing they might complain about is the acting. We only have 3 actors so far, and Connor is surprisingly natural in his role as Logan. Yeah, there are some scenes where the delivery might feel a bit forced, but in general, and especially in the last episodes, I find him to be great. His facial expressions, his hand movements, and everything else really gives life to the character.
You're immune. Not fully immune, but like resistant somehow. Obviously, they can't kill you.
But when it comes to Prahil, well, I think his actor still needs to figure out the character, and it seems that in the later episodes he comes a bit more into his own, but I'm personally not completely convinced yet. Some of his line reads and just him sometimes staring at Logan looking like a wet blanket kinda take me out of it. But I suppose that it's easier for the creator of the series to play one of his characters, seeing as he's got them fleshed out in his mind, while it must be harder for an external actor, so I'm sure he'll also find his footing as Prahil develops more and more. And then there's Fiad, and I'm sorry but she didn't even try.
Ah, a garden.
Yeah,
It was a real issue for the last owners.
I don't want to be mean, really, but it's just a bit funny to me. I think they should have gone for a couple extra takes here, but anyway, her role is so minor that it's not really a big deal. So yeah, I've rambled enough. Go and check out Syncope Drain. If you're from Seattle, perhaps get on it and try to play the ARG. It would be a real shame if that side of the game didn't move forward. Share it around with your friends, family, and hamsters and help Connor get the hype he deserves. So that went on for a lot longer than I thought. Thankfully, with the next entry, the Glennon Archives, I have a lot less to yap about, but not because it's any worse, mind you. You see, this project has just recently begun and just landed on my homepage, and many others too, judging by the numbers it's gaining. Holy moly, the last time I checked it was like 40,000 views, now it just looks like I'm on the bandwagon, and immediately spiked my curiosity. It consists of 2 actual episodes so far, and it shows us a man who looks strikingly similar to the Irish diva Hosier, distractingly so, as he explores what seems like an alternate reality that is completely devoid of people, but inhabited by the mysterious Nesters. Now, the channel description itself plays it off as the work of an archivist basically gathering these pieces of footage and trying to piece together what happened to the man in the videos and where he is now. He even calls it an analog horror reality, which I found kinda hilarious.
Oh no, I'm stuck in the analog horror dimension.
The curious thing about the videos is their approach to the genre. You see, our protagonist films them basically like they were YouTube vlogs, complete with editing and title cards. Most of it consists of him just sharing thoughts with us and exploring around. We start out with him squatting in a random house, telling us about how he's been living there, but very soon he tells us about the already mentioned Nesters. These are human-looking but not quite human creatures which one can come across in this reality. They can go from calm to enraged on a dime and start attacking you. He tries to keep away from them, but mistakenly turned on the lights in this house one night, which could have alerted them to his presence. So now he has to rig the entrances with traps. And I'm talking straight up Rambo Home Alone kind of beats here. One of the traps is a knife that flies up at chest level if the mechanism is activated. Another one is a whole-ass sensor-activated crossbow, complete with a very underwhelmed voice recording playing as a lure.
If a nester enters through here, they'll hear a tape recorder in the next room playing my voice saying the following.
Don't hurt me. Don't come in here, please.
And the last one is matches and a bottle of lighter fluid which will be just leaking throughout the night. Yeah, this man is a bit insane, but gotta Scooby-Doo what you gotta Scooby-Doo, I guess. Anyway, there's basically no horror so far, except at the end. In general, for now, it's very heavy on the vlog aspect of it. Our guy wants to make himself some chicken parm, so he goes to buy groceries and literally does a whole-ass cooking video showing us his recipe, eats and chats with us for a while. 13 minutes of this is just him talking about how lonely he feels, but also about all the things that he doesn't miss about the normal world, revealing to the viewer a pretty conflictual internal life. He also goes on a bit of a tirade about capitalism and how he hated having a boss and stuff, and it's a bit much if I gotta be honest. I think this could have been trimmed a bit. Nonetheless, it does give us insight on our character, which is always important. At the end, he wakes up in the middle of the night to this.
Oh my god!
It seems like one of the Nesters might have activated his lighter fluid booby trap. Now, the second I find to be more fascinating. It's basically just him actually going out and exploring the world a bit, with a big focus being on an empty mall. And I gotta say, Kane Pixel's brain rotted me to the point that it took me way too long to realize that it's all real footage and not 3D. What do I know, these guys are getting too good at their thing. Given that, the empty mall still feels like such a strange space as he walks around it, even though it's real. Now, both the content of the video and the presentation itself I think are much more engaging than the first one. Here we have him both retell his exploration from the comfort of the house, but also actually showing it to us too. He's been using his radio as an alert for danger, kind of like you do in Silent Hill. Basically, if there's a nester ahead, it starts to make noise, I guess. And he ends up exploring some underground tunnels, but doesn't really find anything. Not much really happens. Most of it is just the cool locations and the protagonist's musings on loneliness, on empty spaces, on the world before, etc. It would be pointless for me to recap all of it, I just wanted to put this one on your radar, because it feels like we have some bangers ahead of us. I really hope that the creator starts leaning into the horror a bit more, but I do understand that that's maybe not exactly the point of the series. The protagonist himself is not really a good horror character, in the sense that he's very flat, and I mean that in a funny way. He sometimes almost sounds like Bob Ross. He's always calm and collected and talks about everything, even the nesters, as if none of it was a big deal.
I thought about nesters. I really don't know much about them. Only that they can shift from calm to hostile in seconds. Once they settle somewhere, infestation usually follows. I've encountered that. They look human, but something is off about them. Something is just not normal.
Perhaps then the point is more so just the vibes. Just explore a spooky empty world with a chill normal guy as your protagonist. It's rarely that simple, but we'll see where this goes. So there we have it. Those were 4 of the best YouTube horror projects I found lately. I hope that I managed to spark your curiosity and that you went to check them out for yourself. As always, please support the original creators of the series. The whole point here is that they deserve bigger audiences because they're actually making original, captivating and effortful content on this godforsaken platform. It's still awkward for me to find the exact balance where I'm not just going over the whole project and in that way maybe making it pointless for you to even go and check it out, but also to not be so vague that my own video becomes uninteresting. I've been fortunate so far to always have a positive reaction and interactions with the creators, but I'm always looking to improve this side of my content, so any suggestions are greatly appreciated. Also, if you've come this far, write "nice chicken parm" in your comment. It does actually help to know how many people get to the end outside of being just engagement farming. I'm sorry it took so long to make this video, but I was both busy with traveling and more recently some pretty heavy family stuff has come up, so it's been a bit hard to work consistently. If you enjoyed this multiple series format, then I will make more. If not, I'll figure something else out. Also, there will be more actual essays on the channel, don't worry. I just haven't really found enough inspiration lately. With all of that said, thank you so much as always for watching my stuff. Go and support the creators mentioned today, and also shout out to my Patreon people and YouTube members who have been very neglected lately. I'll find a way to make it up to you. Now, goodbye and see you, Space Mites.